So we continue today in our Lent series of sermons, and the series is called Renewed in Mercy. Renewed in Mercy. And we are looking at encounters that Jesus has with a series of individuals, and they're all recorded in the Gospel of John. We're not necessarily taking them in order, and that's okay, because John in particular doesn't care much for chronology, right, Pastor Susan? He just jumps around and tells us what he wants to tell us. And so we're not taking them in order, and that's great, because it's the Gospel of John. And today's encounter, it involves Jesus meeting a man who was blind. And the Bible makes a point of saying he was blind not because of injury or because of an illness that he incurred later in his life. The Bible wants us to know this is someone who is blind since birth. In other words, someone who had never known what it was like to have the sense of sight his whole life blind. And so Jesus has an encounter, and here's how it begins. It's recorded, actually, the story is so good and so rich, it takes all of John chapter 9. It's like over 40 verses. And so I'm not going to read us today through all 40 verses. I encourage you, I'm going to narrate through some of it. I encourage you to read it later, though. So here's the first part of the story. As he walked along, so that's Jesus, as Jesus walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Time out. So the question tells you something about their understanding, about the way of the world, particularly for religious people in the first century. First question, right off the bat, is they see someone who is suffering. And by the way, this was not the Pharisees. Did you catch who asked him the question? Jesus' own disciples and followers. So these are people, I mean, if I'm Jesus, I'm thinking, come on, guys, how long is it going to take you to catch on to what I'm teaching, what I'm doing? But this is Jesus' crew, and they've been walking around with him and listening to him, and still they're so steeped and immersed. And it's funny, it can be the same for us too, right? They're so immersed in kind of what they've known since, what they've heard since they were born, especially when it came to the way religion was taught and understood. It was like this reflex question. Okay, who sinned? Whose fault? It's that guy's fault, right? Or it's his dad's fault, or his mom's fault, or the grandfather. Like that's immediately where they go. And so Jesus answered, this is verse 3, neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had said this part gets kind of gross. He spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. Then he, that's the man who has now been healed, then he went and washed and came back able to see. This is the word of God for the people of God, and we say, thanks be to God. So a blind man encounters Jesus, and for the first time in his life, he meets Jesus, and he can see. His eyes have been opened, and he went and washed, and if he's like me, he kind of shuddered a little bit, like, really, Jesus? You had to spit and all of that, but he washes all that off. And he doesn't care because he has eyesight. He has vision. His eyes have been opened. He can see. And this happens simply because he encounters Jesus. Now, this would be a great spot for John to end the story with an exclamation point, maybe a couple of emojis, like right there in the Bible. And this is awesome. And yes, Jesus healed this man. What a great miracle. And you would think everyone would be celebrating, like, yes, Jesus, this is incredible. You'd think everyone lining up for more healings. But that's not what happens. You'll see later when you read John chapter 9 that the rest of the chapter is about arguments. What's wrong with us? By the way, we love debating. There must have been part of them that was just so frustrated. Guys, take the win. He's healed. He has his eyesight. And what do we, I'm saying we as though we were these people, the followers and all the people who are there in the rest of John chapter 9, all this bickering and these debates and gossiping and rumors and arguing. The neighbors debate whether it's really the same guy. They think it was a sleight of hand. Maybe it was some sort of magic trick. It was kind of the Pharisees, those religious leaders, so professional religious people like me, they go into interrogation mode. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. Is this correct theology? Wait a minute, we don't know about this. And then there's other religious leaders, they start arguing with themselves about Jesus, trying to figure out, well, what does this mean about his identity and our identity and all of this. They actually do this. They're not satisfied with just making this poor healed blind man's life miserable. They haul his parents into it. The family gets dragged into it too, and they start interrogating them and trying to figure all this stuff out. What no one is doing is simply celebrating and giving God thanks, except for the man who was healed. No one is simply just in awe of how good is God. What a wonderful thing that we cannot explain, that this man has received eyesight. It's the hard part here is, and it must have been so frustrating for Jesus, is helping people recognize what God is up to, helping people see that God is at work sometimes in ways that are unseen, in ways that are mysterious, that maybe do or don't fit into with kind of preconceived theological assumptions, for that group over there, is just helping people recognize, guys, God is at work. That this Holy Spirit of God's presence all around all the time, able to work miracles and provide in ways that we can't explain. And so the religious leaders, they look directly at this healed man standing in front of them. He was blind, and now he can see. And they still refuse. The evidence is they can reach out and touch the evidence, and they still refuse to see what God is doing. The other thing that happens, though, in John 9, so there's all the arguing that breaks out, but there's this other trajectory, and it's fascinating to me because it's the man who was healed. Because it's not just Jesus heals him and he goes away. John traces what happens to this man as the chapter goes forward, because there's a progression, right? He gets his eyesight back. He goes to the pool. He washes. He can see. I mean, just imagine what that must have felt like to be this guy in that moment. But as the chapter goes on, the blind man actually begins to see more and more clearly. He starts to connect dots in his mind. He himself doesn't fully understand what's happened to him. But as it goes forward, it's like his own faith starts to just explode within him. So here's how it gets recorded. So at the first thing this is the blind man who's healed. The first thing he says is, hey, that man that they call Jesus, he made mud and he put it on my eyes. If anyone here's in law enforcement, you love that, right? It's just the facts. I'm safe there. I'm just going to observe exactly what happened. I'm not going to add any descriptors or characteristic traits or just boom, 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 boom. I'm in the army now as a chaplain. The army would love this description. Like, no, there was a guy. You guys call this guy Jesus. I think it's a guy. He made mud. He put it on my eyes. I can see. That's it, right? But then as the chapter goes forward, the man gets a little more courage and a little more faith. And when he's asked again, this time, he says, this man is a prophet, which is a really big deal for a Jewish person in the first century. I mean, there's Elijah, Moses. So even by saying that, this man now has the courage to say something. He could have just signed his own death warrant by saying that. And by the end of the chapter, God's not done with growing this man's vision and faith yet. When Jesus finds him again, here's what happens. This is John 9, chapter 35. I'll just read it for us. Jesus heard that they had driven him out. This is the man that Jesus healed. And when he found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, and who is he, sir? Tell me, so that I may believe in him. Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and the one speaking with you is he. And he said, without hesitation, he says, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. And I like to imagine that this was not taking place in a private prayer closet, but that this was taking place publicly. What courage, like I said before, in his mind for the blind man, potentially signing his own death warrant, publicly worshiping Jesus and saying, Lord, I believe. So his physical sight was restored in a moment, but his spiritual vision grew step by step. So today for us is Vision Sunday for Longleaf. We haven't really done this before, or at least in a while, at least since I've been your pastor, about a year and a half. And it's time. And so we are, in a moment, are going to transition, and we're going to use the time that we have left in this hour of worship together to share with you some things we're really excited about. And the vision that we believe God has given us, some of it we understand, some we're still trusting to be revealed over time. But we're trusting that, just like with John chapter 9, that our spiritual vision as followers of Jesus and as a church family, that our spiritual vision grows step by step as we continue to worship and believe and trust. So when we say a word like vision, what we're not necessarily talking about is God dropping down for us from heaven. Boom! Carrier pigeon, or I guess it'd be a dove. A carrier dove from heaven comes down. And here's the 5-year strategic plan. Longleaf is going to do this and this and this and this. That would be awesome, though, Lord. If you want to do that, we'll take it. More often, God works the way God does in John chapter 9. God is the master of the surprise. In ways that we don't fully expect or even understand. He opens our eyes, though. Little by little, the more we trust, the more we keep following Jesus, he opens our eyes to notice things maybe we didn't notice before. There might be needs in our community that God is asking Longleaf, hey, go address that. Hey, we need Jesus' presence with this thing over there. Longleaf, go do something about that. There could be some opportunities to serve people. There could be some folks in our community who even need this, who need connection and belonging in a place where no matter who they are, what background they come from, who they love, where they can be welcomed and included, and where we can all learn to follow Jesus together. Who knows? Vision isn't really about predicting the future. It's about asking a very simple question. What might God be helping us to see right now and in the future? Where's God already at work? And how can we join in?